In the cold vacuum between stars, the Zarkari observation vessel Vanthex drifted silently, cloaked against the radiation of the human sun. Within its sterile core, the senior xenopsychologist Skurlon Vex adjusted the focus on the neural absorption display, eyes flicking rapidly as footage streamed across it. A million years of scientific discipline were barely enough to conceal his unease. Humans were not what they had expected. They laughed too easily, Skurlon murmured, his mandibles twitching in rhythm with his discomfort. They form attachments rapidly. Illogical. Inefficient. Another scientist, the junior biothinker Ral CH, shifted his bulk uneasily. Yet they thrive. Conquer worlds unsuitable for even our extremophile vassals. They endure physical stress that should kill a corn brute in seconds. And they pair bond with those. The screen displayed a looping image captured at a remote Terran outpost. A female human in matte black armor crouched beside a creature of formidable musculature, jaws like a living bear trap, its tongue lolling idiotically in the sun. The human laughed, rubbing her face against its thick fur. The beast made a low, guttural noise, somewhere between a growl and a sigh of contentment. "What is that?" Ral CH asked. Skurlon enlarged the image. "They call it a dog. An apex land predator with social bonding traits. Bred over centuries not for slaughter, but companionship." The idea disgusted Ral CH. "They play with it. They sleep beside it. Feed it. Train it with soft tones and food. It guards them in return," Skurlon added, voice flat. "They weaponized affection." He tapped another control. Footage shifted. A human military patrol in dense forest. The dog moved first, silent, alert, tail straight. Seconds later, the humans adjusted formation. The creature was their scout, their sensor, their alarm system. But why? Ral CH pressed. Why not employ drones or automated sensors? Because those don't love back. Silence fell. The word fell too raw for their tongues. "We must reassess them entirely," Skurlon finally said. "We assumed biological recklessness, primitive mammalian bonding instincts. Instead, we find tactical use of emotion as strategy." Ral CH hesitated, then spoke with reverence. "They trust these predators." "No," Skurlon corrected him. "They love them. And that makes them more dangerous than anything we've seen." Hours passed. The crew watched more footage. Dogs leaping through fire to save humans, refusing food to guard corpses, attacking armored threats without hesitation. In one video, a soldier lay wounded, and his dog tore through 3 insurgents to drag him to cover. The dog bled out minutes later, head on the man's chest. By Zarkari standards, it was madness. They bred loyalty into killers. Skurlon moved through the command tunnel toward the bioacquisition bay. Already the captains were debating the next phase, a field operation. One dog, extracted for vivisection and study. They would learn its secrets, how it bonded, how it thought, whether it could be controlled. As he entered the darkened chamber, Skurlon paused at a holodeble. A still image floated above it. The same woman from the earlier footage. Now, she was not smiling. Her eyes were flinty, fixed on something outside the frame. Her hand rested on the dog's head, fingers curled protectively. Name: Sergeant Cassandra Vall. Unit: Earth Forces Canine Tactical Division. Companion: Rex. Breed: Unknown hybrid. Notes: Previously served in off-world operations on Kirill, Tevera, and Theta Hex. She commands it. Skurlon asked aloud, though no one answered. Or perhaps it commands her. He studied their body language, how the dog leaned into her, how she never flinched when it snarled. There was no fear, only an unspoken bond. Skurlon felt a cold shudder ripple along his spine. The human and the creature were a unit, not just partners, but extensions of one another. A distant chime echoed across the corridor. The retrieval mission had been approved. The field team would extract the creature during a scheduled planetary blackout on that outpost. 9 hours from now. Skirlon returned to the observation deck, but his eyes kept drifting to the still image. A part of him whispered they were making a mistake, that this was no mere biological curiosity, that perhaps, just perhaps, they had stumbled on something the galaxy had never evolved on its own, a species that loved its monsters. 9 hours later, the blackout fell like planned ruin. On the edge of Earth's colonial grid, the outpost known as Relay Vesper plunged into darkness. Lights snapped off, sensors went dead, even the air recycling units groaned to a halt before kicking into passive mode. Power loss was rare here, and that made it ideal for an extraction. In the woods beyond the perimeter, 6 Zarkari infiltrators shimmered into partial visibility, cloaked but not entirely invisible. Their chitinous armor glinted with absorbed starlight as they moved in silence, limbs moving with unnatural grace. They were designed for this, creatures grown in labs and drilled in simulacra of Earth's terrain. They feared nothing. They were trained to silence threats before breath could turn to scream. They had no word for mercy. Inside the outpost, Sergeant Cassandra Vall flicked a small light attached to her shoulder rig. Red emergency glow painted the corridors in eerie tones. Her team was out, scattered across the camp on staggered rest shifts. Just her and Rex were awake for perimeter check. Rex's ears twitched. The dog had not made a sound, but his body went rigid. Cassandra stopped mid-step, her hand lowered to her sidearm. She didn't draw it, yet. Experience taught her to trust Rex more than any radar, drone, or satellite feed. His instincts were never wrong. "Talk to me," she whispered. Rex's growl was deep, sustained, barely audible. She turned off the light. They moved as one, her hand lightly resting on his back, guiding by feel rather than sight. Down the corridor, left through the storage alcove, through a narrow security hatch only she and 2 others used. 3 meters ahead, Rex halted. A faint hiss of depressurized air. Not internal, external. She felt her blood turn cold. They weren't dealing with a system failure. Someone had breached the hull. She turned on her comms. Nothing. Static. Jam field. They were already inside. Outside, the Zarkari lead scout, Vrektil, signaled with 2 fingers. He could see the thermal trails, 3 faint signatures still inside sleeping pods, one moving. That one moved like no human he had seen. Slower, but alert. Steady. Not confused. Adapting too fast, he muttered to the one beside him. Unimportant. The asset is in Quadrant Delta. We retrieve and extract. Leave minimal mess. Another hiss. A panel slid open. The Zarkari team glided through the corridor like smoke with blades. They didn't expect combat. They were here for surgical theft. Remove the animal, study it, and determine the bonding vectors. At worst, sedate the human. Erase the memory if needed. What they found instead was a trail of blood. But not a human's. The first Zarkari, trailing the team, had vanished. No alarm. No struggle. Just gone. Vrektil clicked rapidly. Rear scout status. No response. Then static. Then screaming. The rest of the team turned. Too late. Rex hit the second alien like a meteor. He wasn't snarling. He didn't bark. He didn't announce his fury with noise. He moved in lethal silence, fangs shearing through the thin section beneath the alien's neck plating. The creature spasmed once, then dropped. The others opened fire, but Rex was gone before the first bolt hit. Cassandra emerged from the dark, her eyes cold, an expression unreadable. The red emergency light cast a strange halo behind her, framing her figure like something carved from war and smoke. She didn't fire either. Not at first. She moved with purpose, ducking under the first volley, side-rolling to a panel she'd pre-rigged hours earlier. Her fingers slammed into a biometric reader. Door slammed shut. 3 of his Zarkari were now trapped in an auxiliary storage bay, walls lined with high-pressure tanks and volatile equipment. She pulled the trigger. Fire rolled down the corridor. The pressure wave knocked her off her feet, and for a heartbeat she couldn't hear anything but a rising whistle. Rex was at her side in an instant, nudging her shoulder, dragging her away with his teeth clamped around the armored strap of her vest. 2 left. She crouched behind a maintenance terminal, eyes scanning the fading smoke. "Rex," she whispered. "Flank left." He vanished. Skirlon watched from the orbiting ship, horrified. The telemetry data was chaos. Life signs dropping, biosuits failing, screams choked off mid-transmission. Only Vrektil and 1 other remained alive. He ordered immediate evacuation. Too late. Cassandra moved like she had trained for this scenario her whole life. She didn't just counter their tactics. She predicted them. She laid traps, drew them into kill zones, severed fallback routes. Vrektil realized it too late. His comms hissed in his ear. No words, just the sound of claws on metal. Then breathing. Close. Right behind him. He spun. Nothing. Then the weight hit him from above. He screamed as Rex tore through his upper limb, dragging him to the floor. Cassandra stepped into view and aimed low. 2 precise shots disabled the suit's propulsion nodes, anchoring him to the ground. She knelt beside him. "You were after him," she said, pointing to Rex. The alien gurgled blood, trying to activate a failsafe. She crushed it with her boot. "Next time," she murmured, her voice almost kind, "send something that bleeds less." Then she stood and left him alive. Rex followed. Above, on the Zarkari vessel, Skirlon watched the remaining vitals flatline. Not from death. From signal suppression. The humans had cut them off entirely. He stared at the final images scouts had transmitted. Cassandra and Rex walking down the hallway side by side. Blood on the floor. Smoke curling through the air. Her hand rested on his head. No fear. No hesitation. Just war, dressed in quiet love. The next morning, Cassandra stood at the edge of the crater the explosion had left behind. Blackened metal, half-melted supports, and scorched soil marked the spot where 3 of the Zarkari had died. The smell still clung to the air, burned composite and charred alien flesh. It was unmistakable. She didn't flinch. Rex sat beside her, his eyes sweeping the tree line. He was calm, but alert, tail flicking in controlled, unconscious movements. She knew the rhythm of those signals like heartbeat. His silence meant danger still loomed. The others were awake now. Her team, specialists trained in interspecies diplomacy and xenobiology, emerged from their quarters groggy, confused. None of them had heard a thing. The power had returned as if nothing had happened. "Sergeant," Dr. Halem called out, adjusting his thick-rimmed glasses. "What the hell happened here?" She didn't answer at first. Instead, she held up a small orb, the extracted core of one of the Zarkari's neural implants. It pulsed with residual heat and flickered faint data patterns, still trying to connect to a network that no longer existed. "An abduction attempt," she said, tossing it to him. Halem caught it awkwardly, staring at it as if it might bite. "On us?" "No," she replied. "On Rex." He blinked. "The dog." "Not a dog," she corrected. "A military canine bred for adaptive instinct warfare, smart enough to identify threats before satellite uplinks register, strong enough to down an armored opponent, fast enough to vanish before you can blink." Halem stared at Rex as though seeing him for the first time. "But why him?" Cassandra looked toward the smoldering treetops beyond the compound. "Because something out there thinks it can weaponize loyalty." High above the planet, aboard the orbital Zarkari command vessel Shikaran, Skirlon reviewed the recon footage again, frame by frame. The creature moved like fluid thought, without hesitation or error. The human woman, too, exhibited dangerous synchronicity. It wasn't command and obedience. It was partnership. something the Zarkari had never bred into their bioclones. Council protocol prohibits direct confrontation, said Counselor Velex through the long-range channel. They're not yet considered class-red threats. Skirlon's mandibles clicked in disgust. We lost an entire strike team. Then perhaps it was the team that was flawed. Skirlon muted the feed and turned to his second, Tovalek. Prepare the harvest teams. We're going down ourselves. Sir, that violates. Do it. On the ground, Cassandra ran diagnostics again. She knew the attack wasn't isolated. The Zarkari didn't test waters. They dived straight in. And when something bled them, they came back with fire. Her compound was now a bullseye. That night, she gave her team orders to evacuate. Civilian researchers first. Pilots on standby. All shuttle activity silent and dark. No heat blooms. No EM signatures. The fewer lights, the better. I'm staying, she told Halem as he packed up the last of his crates. You're insane. No, she replied. I'm bait. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. You know they'll send more. Stronger ones. I hope so. She watched the final transport vanish into the clouds. Then she turned to Rex. You ready, boy? His tail thumped once against the dirt. Then stillness. They moved to the northern ridge, where motion sensors had already begun to fail in short, flickering bursts. One by one, systems blinked out. Not fried. Hacked. Cassandra placed a small satchel on the dirt and pressed a single trigger. A low hum radiated outward, a pulse that made Rex's ears twitch. It wasn't offensive. It was an invitation. Within minutes, the first figures appeared, taller than the scouts, fully armored, with exoskeletal enhancements fused to organic muscle. Tovalek led them, his eyes scanning the ridgeline with a soldier's mind sharpened over 100 campaigns. He saw Cassandra immediately and motioned for the others to fan out. She didn't run. She walked directly toward them. They were silent, weapons drawn, fangs gleaming behind translucid mandibles. Rex was already gone from sight. I know what you're after, she called, voice firm. And I'm telling you, you're not ready. Tovalek didn't speak. He activated a sonic disabler designed to cripple auditory senses. Cassandra dropped to one knee. Not in surrender. In preparation. Rex exploded from behind them like a demon born of thunder and teeth. The first soldier didn't even react. His head was gone before he hit the ground. Tovalek swung with a blade too slow and far too late. Rex vanished again. The others panicked. Their formation cracked. Cassandra drew her rifle, but it wasn't her weapon that mattered. It was the timing. She fired not to kill, but to herd, to confuse. Her shot steered the invaders into a cross-angle ambush. She and Rex had done this a dozen times, but never against a command force. Tovalek recovered quickly. Retreat pattern Omega, he barked. Stun the creature. Extract the human if possible. They fired nets, stun darts, biofoam traps, but Rex moved like prophecy. Every strike missed or found empty air. When he reappeared, it was always from above or below, jaws clamping down with surgical ferocity. He didn't aim to maim. He ended threats. Cassandra took a hit. Her leg burned from a glancing bolt. She went down, rolling behind cover. Tovalek saw it. He charged. Big mistake. Rex came at him from the side, smashing full force into his armored midsection. The two rolled in a tangle of fur, claws, and steel. Cassandra crawled forward, lifting her rifle with one good arm, breath ragged. Rex was pinned, Tovalek's enhanced arms gripping him by the throat. She didn't hesitate. 3 shots, right into the alien's knee joints. He screamed. Rex twisted free. And this time, he didn't aim for the throat. He went for the spine. The last soldier tried to flee. Cassandra didn't stop him. Let them run. Let them tell the others. Let the galaxy know. As silence fell over the ridge once more, she stood with effort and limped to Rex's side. Blood on his fur. Alien, not his. Good boy. she whispered, sinking to her knees beside him. He licked her hand once, then sat with her as the stars overhead pulsed with cold, distant light. Tomorrow, there would be more, but tonight they'd won. Rain fell in sheets across the shattered ridge, hissing where it struck hot alien metal and burned soil. Cassandra stood in the wreckage, silent, watching the flames gutter low as dawn pressed pale light through the clouds. Her leg was stiff, wrapped in field bandages, but she refused to limp. Weakness had a scent. Predators knew it. Rex paced a slow perimeter, blood scrubbed clean by the storm, those scars marked where the Zarkari had grabbed hold. His movements were slower now, more deliberate. Not exhaustion, calculation. He was learning. They both were. Above them, a rumble cracked through the sky as a Zarkari gunship broke atmosphere. No stealth this time. No surgical incursion. This was a declaration. Cassandra felt the vibration in her teeth. She tapped her comm. Halem, confirm your location. Static hissed back. Then a voice, just past the mesosphere. 10 minutes out. Shuttle's cloaked. Keep it that way. They're coming in heavy. We know. You ready? Cassandra's eyes flicked toward Rex. He stood now, facing the horizon, head tilted slightly like he was already listening. We've been ready. The gunship dropped with a low whine, deploying a dozen Zarkari tacticians, not just soldiers, commanders, handlers, bio-war engineers. Skirlon stepped down last, his armor pulsing with violet veins of kinetic shielding. Human, he called, voice amplified by bone-conductive modulation. You've interfered with matters you do not comprehend. Cassandra didn't reply. Your creature is not property. It is a weapon. Unregulated. Dangerous. He's not a weapon, she said. He's a warning. Skirlon stepped closer. We've studied your history. You breed monsters and chain them with affection. You mistake loyalty for love. That is a fatal error. No, she replied, drawing her knife. Not the rifle. Not explosives, just a blade. Your fatal error was thinking you could ever understand what love makes us willing to do. He waved his hand. The assault began. Not from the front. Zarkari were tacticians. They struck from flanks, from underground tunnels that had been dug in prior passes, from above via cloaked gliders. Perfect coordination. Absolute synchronization. Against most enemies, it would have been devastating. But Rex didn't operate on pattern. He fought like a ghost born from blood and memory. The first wave never reached Cassandra. The second wave triggered the mines she'd planted in the trees, scrap metal from their last fight, rigged with thermite cores and laced with shrapnel made from their own armor. The third wave, the handlers, tried to use sonic disruptors tuned to canine frequencies. Rex stopped, turned, and howled, not in pain, in rage. It cracked windows. It stunned the nearest Zarkari to their knees. Cassandra used that moment to move, silent, quick. Her blade found weak points in armor. Under the arm, base of the neck, beneath mandibles. One by one, they fell. Skirlon watched, hands clenched. His elite were dying. Not to weapons. To creatures he'd been trained to ignore. To what humans call pets. He activated his suit's full charge. Power rippled across his frame. Even the ground beneath his feet trembled. I tire of this, he said. Cassandra raised her blade. Then bleed. He lunged. She ducked, sidestepped, slashed, but his speed was unnatural. His gauntlet slammed into her chest, sending her flying. She hit the dirt hard, gasping for breath, ribs screaming. He raised a spike to finish it. Rex struck from the shadows behind him, burying fangs into the weak seam at the back of the neck guard. Skirlon roared, staggered, slammed Rex into the ground with brutal force. But Rex didn't let go. He clung like vengeance. Cassandra forced herself up, grabbed the broken hilt of her blade, staggered forward. One step, another. Skirlon flailed. Rex twisted. Armor cracked. She drove the blade into Skirlon's exposed eye. The alien screamed once. Then silence. Rex dropped to the ground, chest heaving, blood-matted fur gleaming in the morning sun. The surviving Zarkari didn't regroup. They didn't retaliate. They fled. For the first time in their empire's history, they'd been bested not by superior firepower, but by something infinitely harder to classify: bond. Cassandra stood over Skirlon's corpse, breathing hard. "Tell your council," she whispered to the empty air, knowing satellite feeds would catch every word. "Humans don't tame monsters. We befriend them." Rex nuzzled her hand, then looked skyward. The evac shuttle descended moments later. Halem burst from the ramp, medics in tow. "You're alive," he said, half astonished. "Of course we are," she said. "This isn't our first storm." Medics moved to treat her, but she waved them off. "Start scanning the area," she ordered. "We've got wreckage to study, gear to salvage. And you," she looked at Halem, "get this to Central Command. Every second we sit quiet is another second they think we're still prey." Halem nodded. He looked at Rex. "And him? He's coming with me." "Where?" Cassandra turned toward the forest, still smoldering, still thick with danger and secrets. "Wherever the next fire is." As the shuttle engines roared to life and Rex sat faithfully at her side, Cassandra knew this wasn't the end of anything. It was only the beginning. Because now the galaxy knew. Humans didn't keep the deadliest creatures in cages. They raised them at home.